Jack Miller looked out the small window of the transport ship. The stars seemed different from this distance, so far from Earth. He adjusted his plain blue uniform and checked his watch. 5 minutes until docking with the Zarelian vessel. Ambassador. Miller, a voice called from behind him. Final briefing. Jack turned to face his mission coordinator, Diane Powell. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her expression was serious. The Zarelians are not like us, she said. They communicate through chemicals. They respect strength and fear weakness. Do not show fear, no matter what. Jack nodded. I understand. Do you? Diane asked. No human has ever been alone with the Zarelians before. We chose you for a reason. Jack knew the reason. Since childhood, he had been different. Toxins that made others sick barely affected him. Doctors had studied him for years. The government had noticed. When aliens made contact 3 years ago, Jack's strange ability suddenly became valuable. I'll be fine, Jack said. Diane handed him a small device. Your translator. Keep it with you at all times. A loud buzz sounded through the ship. Docking. Procedures had begun. Remember your training, Diane said. The future of Earth might depend on this meeting. Jack walked to the airlock door. His heart beat faster, but his face remained calm. The door hissed as it opened. The smell hit him. First, something like rotten eggs mixed with sweet flowers. The translator on his belt beeped with a warning. Atmospheric hazard, fear-inducing neurotoxin detected. Green mist swirled around him as he stepped through the doorway. The Zarelian ship was warmer than the human vessel, and the gravity felt slightly stronger. Through the mist, he could see tall shapes waiting. Any other species would be on the floor by now, screaming as the fear gas triggered their worst nightmares. The Zarelians used this gas as a test and a weapon. It had worked on every alien race they had met, until humans. Jack smiled and took a deep breath. The gas tickled his nose and made his eyes water slightly. He felt a faint sense of unease, like walking alone in a dark room, but nothing more. He walked forward through the mist. The shapes became clearer. 5 Zarelians stood watching him. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with shiny green-black bodies that reminded Jack of beetles. Their heads had large, round eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Instead of mouths, they had moving parts that clicked together when they communicated. Behind a clear wall, the Zarelians watched him with what seemed like surprise. Their thin arms moved in quick patterns. Jack's translator spoke. The human shows no fear response. Increase gas concentration. The mist around Jack grew thicker. His eyes watered more and he felt his heart beat faster. Still, he smiled and continued walking until he reached a line marked on the floor. Greetings, Jack said. I am Ambassador Jack Miller of Earth. I bring peaceful intentions from my people to yours. The Zarelians moved closer to the clear wall. Their clicking sounds grew faster and louder. The translator spoke again. Impossible. The fear toxin is at maximum strength. Jack waited patiently. He had been briefed on Zarelian customs. They would be confused by his immunity, maybe even frightened. He needed to show respect while demonstrating human strength. Finally, a section of the clear wall slid open. The largest Zarelian stepped through. It stood directly in front of Jack, its reflective eyes studying him closely. I am Senior Commander. HFY, the translator converted the clicks in chemical signals. You are ... done expected, Jack bowed slightly. It is an honor to meet you, Senior Commander. The gas does not affect you. It wasn't a question. I notice it, Jack said honestly. But it does not control me. The Zarelian's upper limbs moved. In what Jack's training suggested was a sign of respect. No species has ever resisted our defensive measures, HFY said. Your kind is different. Humans are adaptable, Jack replied. We come from a world of many dangers. We learn to overcome them. The other Zarelians had moved closer now, their bodies releasing scents that Jack's translator identified as curiosity. And caution, we have much to discuss, HFY said. Follow. Jack was led deeper into the ship. The mist thinned as they walked through curved hallways. The walls looked organic. almost like they were grown rather than built. Lights pulsed along the ceiling in patterns that reminded Jack of heartbeats. They entered a large room with a round table in the center. Other Xerelians were already seated there. When Jack entered, they all stood up. Their clicking sounds filled the room. "The human ambassador will join our discussion," HFY announced. "Prepare information exchange protocols." Jack took the empty seat offered to him. The chair adjusted to his human shape, surprising him with its comfort. "We have studied your transmissions," one of the new Xerelians said. The translator identified her as Science Director Mivler. "Your species is young but advancing quickly. You have potential." "We have much to learn," Jack said modestly. "And much to offer, perhaps," HFY clicked. "That remains to be seen. Your immunity to our defensive measures is concerning." Jack chose his next words carefully. "We do not see it as a weapon, but as a bridge. Where others might be stopped by fear, we can continue communication. This allows us to know each other better." The Xerelians exchanged looks and chemicals. Jack's translator worked hard to keep up with their conversation. Interesting perspective. Potential danger, unique opportunity, requires further study. Finally, HFY turned back to Jack. "We will proceed with diplomatic exchange. But know this, human, you are the first species to surprise us in many cycles." "We will watch your kind closely," Jack nodded. "That is fair. We look forward to learning from each other." As the formal meeting began, Jack sent a discreet signal to the waiting Earth ship. The message was simple: contact established, they're interested. What Jack didn't say was how the Xerelians had looked at him with the first traces of fear he had seen from them. Humanity's immunity had unbalanced the power dynamics of the galaxy in ways no one had predicted. Jack smiled politely as the discussions began. The air still contained traces of the fear gas, but to him it now smelled almost pleasant, like the beginning of something new and important. Dr. Olivia Grant ran down the long white hallway of the Xenobiology Research Center. Her shoes made squeaking sounds on the clean floor. She was late for the most important meeting of her life. In her hand, she held a tablet with information that could change the future of Earth. She pushed open the heavy door to the conference room. 5 people sat around a large table. They all turned to look at her. "Sorry I'm late," she said, trying to catch her breath. General Frank Cooper nodded at her. His gray hair was cut short, and his uniform had many medals. "Dr. Grant, we've been waiting." Olivia placed her tablet on the table. "I have the final test results." Admiral Susan Martinez leaned forward. She was the youngest admiral in the United States Navy, with dark eyes that missed nothing. "And?" "It's confirmed," Olivia said. She pressed a button on her tablet, and a large screen on the wall lit up with charts and numbers. About 15% of all humans are completely immune to the Xerelian fear gas. Another 30% show strong resistance. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. For thousands of years, the Xerelians had been the most powerful species in their part of space. Their main weapon was their fear gas. It could make whole planets surrender without a single shot fired. "How is this possible?" asked Professor Gary Lewis, the top expert on alien biology. Olivia pointed to one of the charts. "It's in our DNA. Humans evolved on a planet with thousands of plants that make strong chemicals. Many of these chemicals affect the brain. Over time, some humans develop protection against these effects. So because our ancestors ate weird plants, we're immune to alien weapons?" asked Major Debbie Clark. She looked skeptical. "Basically, yes," Olivia said. "Especially people whose families come from areas with many psychoactive plants. The Amazon rainforest, certain parts of Asia, and so on." General Cooper tapped his fingers on the table. "And Jack Miller? How does he fit in?" Olivia showed them another chart. "Jack has the strongest natural immunity we've ever seen. His brain simply doesn't process the fear chemicals the way other species do. To him, the gas is just a strange smell." "Does he know?" asked Admiral Martinez. "No," General Cooper answered before Olivia could speak. And he can't know yet, not the full story. Why not? Olivia asked. He deserves to know why he was chosen, Cooper shook his head. Because right now the Xerelians think Jack Miller is special. If they find out that millions of humans share his ability, they might see us as a threat. Professor Lewis nodded in agreement. The general is right. The Xerelians have ruled through fear for millennia. A species immune to that. Fear would terrify them. So what do we do? Major Clark asked. Admiral Martinez stood up and walked to the window. Outside, they could see the mountains of Colorado. We continue the diplomatic mission. Jack keeps the Xerelians talking while we prepare. Prepare for what? Olivia asked, though she already knew the answer. For whatever comes next, Martinez said. Peace if possible, war if necessary. Olivia looked down at her tablet. There was more information she hadn't shared yet. There's something else you should know. The fear gas isn't just a weapon to the Xerelians. It's part of their biology, their culture, their religion. She showed them new images, Xerelian brain scans taken by orbital sensors. They use different gases to communicate emotions, share memories, even bond with family members. The fact that humans don't respond normally isn't just a military problem. For them, it's like we're speaking a language they can't understand. General Cooper frowned. That makes things more complicated. It also gives us an opportunity, Professor Lewis said, his eyes lighting up with understanding. If we can find a way to communicate with them on their chemical level. Exactly, Olivia said. My team is already working on a device that could detect and interpret their chemical signals more accurately than our current translators. The room fell silent again as everyone considered the possibilities. Finally, Admiral Martinez spoke. Keep working on it, Dr. Grant, but keep it secret. Level 10 clearance only? Olivia nodded, but she felt uneasy. Secrets had a way of causing problems. The meeting ended, and Olivia walked back to her lab. Her assistant, Ryan Porter, was waiting for her. His young face looked worried. Did you tell them everything? He asked quietly. Olivia glanced around to make sure they were alone. No, not everything. She opened the secure drawer and pulled out another tablet. This one showed different data, the effects of Xerelian gases on Jack Miller's brain over time. The immunity isn't perfect, she said softly. The gas is building up in his system. It's starting to affect him in ways we didn't predict. Ryan looked at the data with concern. How long does he have? A month, maybe less, before he starts experiencing effects. Nothing dangerous yet, but he'll notice. We need to warn him. Ryan said. Olivia put the tablet away. I know, but not yet. The diplomatic mission is too important. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, Jack Miller sat in his new quarters on the Xerelian ship. The room was designed for human comfort, with Earth-like temperature and gravity. But a thin mist still filled the air, a lesser concentration of the fear gas that the Xerelians couldn't help but release. Jack breathed it in without concern. But for the first time, he noticed something strange. A small shadow seemed to move at the edge of his vision. When he turned to look, nothing was there. Probably just tired, he said to himself. He didn't know that back on Earth, scientists were watching his brain slowly change. He didn't know that millions of humans shared his gift. And he didn't know that the Xerelians were beginning to ask dangerous questions about the strange humans who smiled at their most powerful weapon. Jack closed his eyes to sleep, unaware that he was at the center of a gathering storm that could reshape the galaxy. 3 months had passed since Jack Miller first stepped onto the Xerelian ship. Now he stood on the actual Xerelian homeworld, looking up at buildings that seemed to grow from the ground like giant plants. The sky was a strange orange color, and the air had a constant amber mist that made everything look slightly unreal. This way, Ambassador, clicked his Xerelian guide, Senior Commander Zexavac. The translator on Jack's belt converted the sounds and chemical signals into words. The High Matriarch is waiting. Jack followed Zexavac through streets filled with Xerelians. They all stopped to stare at the human. Some released fear chemicals when they saw him, making the air thicker around Jack. He had gotten used to this reaction. Your people seem nervous, Jack said. Zaxivak's shiny head turned slightly. You are the first non-Zarelian to visit our world in over 500 years, and the only one ever to walk freely through our fear mists. They approached a massive structure that rose high above the city. Unlike the other organic-looking buildings, this one was made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light. The Chamber of Trials, Zaxivak explained. The heart of our government, the place where all important decisions are made. Two tall guards stood at the entrance. They clicked rapidly when they saw Jack. The doors opened, releasing a wave of purple mist that was much thicker and darker than anything Jack had encountered before. Jack felt his heart beat faster. This gas was different, stronger. For the first time, he felt a slight sense of unease that went beyond the normal mild effects. Is there a problem, human? Zaxivak asked, noticing Jack's hesitation. Jack forced a smile. Not at all. Please, lead the way. They entered a vast hall filled with the purple mist. Hundreds of Zarelians lined the walls, all watching as Jack walked toward a raised platform at the center of the room. On the platform sat the largest Zarelian Jack had ever seen. Her exoskeleton was a deep blue-black color with gold patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Hi, Matriarch Zixkaler, Zaxivak announced, bowing low. I present Ambassador Jack Miller of Earth. Jack bowed as he had been taught. It is an honor to meet you, High Matriarch. The Matriarch's voice was deeper than other Zarelians, making the translator vibrate. Rise, human, look upon me. Jack stood and met the many-faceted eyes of the alien ruler. The purple mist swirled thickly around him. He noticed shadows at the edges of his vision again, but ignored them. Your kind intrigues us, the Matriarch said. For 10,000 years, no species has withstood our defensive measures. Yet you breathe our strongest fear gas and remain standing. Humans are adaptable, Jack said, repeating what had become his standard response. So it seems, the Matriarch leaned forward. Yet, we have received troubling reports. Your military vessels have entered the Proxima system. This violates our agreement. Jack was surprised. He hadn't been told about any military movements. There must be a mistake, High Matriarch. Those ships are conducting a scientific mission with the Arcturian Collective. We sent notice according to our treaty. You lie. The Matriarch's voice became harder. Around the room, Zarelians released more chemicals into the air. The purple mist grew even thicker. We have intercepted communications between your ships. They carry weapons. Jack felt sweat on his forehead. The mist was definitely affecting him more than usual. He saw brief flashes of darkness, heard whispers that weren't really there. But he kept his face calm. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding, he suggested. All exploration vessels carry basic defenses. The Proxima system has many natural hazards. Our scouts report these are not basic defenses, the Matriarch clicked angrily. These are warships. Jack didn't know what to say. He hadn't been informed of any military operations. Either Earth was keeping secrets from him, or the Zarelians were mistaken. Either way, he was in a dangerous position. I suggest we contact Earth directly, Jack said carefully. I can request clarification. From my superiors? The Matriarch made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret. The purple mist suddenly became even thicker, almost solid around Jack. This is our most potent truth gas, the Matriarch explained. No being can lie while breathing it. Tell me the true purpose of your ships in the Proxima system. Jack felt the gas burning in his lungs now. The shadows at the edge of his vision were growing, taking shapes that reminded him of his childhood fears, dark corners, abandoned places, the monsters he once thought lived under his bed. But he pushed the visions away. I have told you the truth as I know it, Jack said, his voice steady despite the growing pressure in his head. I was not informed of any military purpose. The Matriarch studied him for a long moment. Interesting. You appear to believe what you are saying. A Zarelian scientist stepped forward, clicking rapidly. Matriarch, the human's brain patterns are unusual. The gas affects him, but differently than expected. We cannot be certain of the results." Jack felt a wave of dizziness. The room seemed to spin around him, the faces of the Xerelians blurred together. He forced himself to stand straight. "If there has been a misunderstanding," Jack said, fighting to keep his voice clear, "I suggest we bring this matter to the Confederation Council for arbitration. They can determine the truth independently." The matriarch was silent for a long moment. The entire chamber waited for her decision. Finally, she spoke. "Very well. We will consult the council. But know this, human, if your kind has deceived us, the consequences will be severe." Jack nodded, relieved. "Thank you, High Matriarch." As he was escorted from the chamber, Jack felt his communicator vibrate against his skin. A message from Earth had arrived. He would read it once he was alone. What Jack didn't know was that back on Earth, Dr. Olivia Grant was looking at his latest brain scans with growing concern. The gases were having an effect after all, small changes that were getting bigger every day. And Earth really did have warships in the Proxima system, positioned to counter a Xerelian fleet that intelligence had detected near one of Earth's new colonies. The chess game between species was growing more complex, and Jack Miller was the unwitting pawn at the center of it all. Dr. Olivia Grant stood in front of 12 serious faces. The United Earth Defense Council watched her from their seats around the large half-circle table. The room was deep underground in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Olivia touched the screen of her tablet, and a large image appeared on the wall behind her. It showed a human brain with areas colored in red and yellow. "This is Ambassador Miller's latest brain scan," she explained. "The red areas show where the Xerelian gases are affecting him." Council Chairwoman Patricia Wright leaned forward. Her white hair was cut short, and her dark skin showed lines from years of difficult decisions. "How serious is it?" she asked. "More serious than we expected," Olivia replied. "Jack has been exposed to 17 different types of Xerelian gas in the past 3 months. His natural immunity is strong, but not perfect. The effects are building up." "What kind of effects?" asked General Cooper, who sat to Wright's right. Olivia changed the image to show a different scan. At first, just small things, shadows at the edge of his vision, hearing sounds that aren't there. But now it's progressing to more vivid hallucinations, especially when exposed to their stronger gases. "How long before it becomes a problem?" Admiral Martinez asked. "A month." "Maybe less," Olivia said. "Eventually he'll start showing visible reactions to their gases. When that happens, the Xerelians will know something is wrong." The room fell silent as everyone considered what this meant. "There's something else," said Lieutenant Alan Harris. He was younger than the others, with short brown hair and sharp eyes. As the head of military intelligence for the Xerelian situation, his opinion carried weight. "We've learned more about why the gases are so important to Xerelian society." Alan stood up and joined Olivia at the front of the room. "The gases aren't just weapons. They're the foundation of their entire culture. They use different chemical compounds to mark social status, religious ceremonies, even family bonds. Their whole society is built around these gases and the fear responses they create in other species." "And we don't react the way we're supposed to," Patricia Wright said, understanding the problem. "Exactly," Alan nodded. "Our immunity doesn't just make their weapons useless, it challenges their entire worldview. Some of them see it as almost blasphemous." "Which explains why we've detected increased military activity," General Cooper added. "Our ships in the Proxima system have reported that the Xerelian fleet is growing. They now have 27 warships positioned near our colony on Proxima B." Patricia Wright sighed heavily. "So our options are limited. If we tell them the truth about our immunity, they might see us as an even bigger threat. If we continue the deception and Jack's condition worsens, they'll discover it anyway. There is another option," Olivia said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "We've developed a compound that simulates fear responses in humans who are immune to their gas," she explained. "It doesn't actually cause fear, but it creates physical reactions that would make the Xerelians believe their newest gas formula works on us." "A fake reaction," Alan said, nodding slowly. That could work. It would give them a false victory, Olivia continued. Make them think they've finally created something that affects humans. It would reduce the threat they feel from us. And buy us time, Patricia added. Time to prepare, either for peace or alternatives. General Cooper looked skeptical. Would Miller agree to this? He would need to know everything. Yes, Olivia said firmly. Jack deserves the full truth. About his condition, about the military situation, all of it? Patricia thought for a moment, then nodded. Prepare the compound. Lieutenant Harris, draft a complete briefing for Ambassador Miller. Include everything we know about the Xerelians, our immunity, and the current military positioning. What about the Proxima fleet? Admiral Martinez asked. Should we withdraw? No, Patricia decided. But don't advance either. Hold position and maintain alert status. If the Xerelians make a move, be ready to respond. As the meeting ended, Olivia returned to her lab. Ryan Porter was waiting for her with new data. How did it go? He asked. They approved the plan, Olivia said. We need to prepare the compound for Jack immediately. Ryan looked troubled. There's something you should see first. He showed her new scans of Jack's brain. The red areas had spread. This is from yesterday, Olivia said, alarmed. The progression is accelerating. The last gas they exposed him to was different, Ryan explained, more potent. The Xerelians call it Elder Truth Gas. It's reserved for their most sacred ceremonies. Olivia studied the scans with growing concern. We need to get the compound to him now, today. There's a diplomatic pouch scheduled for delivery to the Xerelian homeworld tomorrow morning, Ryan said. We can include it with instructions. Do it, Olivia ordered. And add a personal message from me. He deserves to know what's happening to him. On the Xerelian homeworld, Jack Miller sat alone in his quarters. The meeting with the High Matriarch had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. The shadows he kept seeing were growing more substantial. Sometimes they took shapes that reminded him of people he knew. Jack checked his personal communicator again. The message from Earth had been brief and unhelpful. Continued diplomatic efforts. Further instructions coming? He looked out the window at the strange alien city. The orange sky was darkening as night approached. In the streets below, Xerelians were releasing evening gases, chemicals that helped them transition to their rest cycle. A small amount of the gas seeped through his window seals. Jack felt a wave of dizziness as he breathed it in. The shadows in the corner of his room seemed to move, taking the shape of a tall figure. Not real, Jack said to himself. Just the gas. But the shadow didn't disappear. Instead, it grew clearer until Jack could almost recognize the face. His communicator beeped with an incoming message. Jack looked down at it, grateful for the distraction. The message was marked urgent. Medical, eyes only. Jack opened it with a growing sense of unease. As he read, his hands began to shake. The immunity isn't perfect, the message began. The gases are affecting you more than we predicted. Help is coming tomorrow. But there's more you need to know. Jack read the rest of the message in stunned silence. When he finished, he looked up and found that the shadow figure was gone. But a new understanding was forming in his mind, one that would change everything. Jack Miller sat across from High Matriarch Zixkaler in her private chamber. Unlike the grand hall where they had met before, this room was smaller and had clear air. The purple mist that had filled the Chamber of Trials was absent here, a courtesy Jack appreciated after his recent experiences. 3 weeks had passed since Jack had received the truth about his condition and Earth's military position. In that time, much had changed. During a ceremonial gathering, Jack had used the compound Dr. Grant sent him. When exposed to the Xerelians' most potent fear gas, he had shown visible signs of fear for the first time. He had trembled, his eyes had widened, and he had gasped for breath. The performance, enhanced by the special compound, had satisfied the Xerelian leaders. Now the matriarch studied him with her reflective eyes. Her large head tilted slightly. Your species continues to surprise us, Ambassador, she said through the translator. No other beings have shown such interesting responses. Jack nodded respectfully. We are still learning about each other, High Matriarch. The situation with the fleets in the Proxima system remained tense, but stable. After Jack's apparent reaction to their strongest gas, the Xerelians had stopped adding ships to their fleet. It was a small victory, but an important one. I have been permitted to share something with you, Jack said carefully. He had practiced these words many times. Earth had given him permission to try a new approach, not complete honesty, but closer to it. The matriarch's antennae moved slightly, showing interest. Speak freely. Humans have a long history with substances that change how we think and feel, Jack began. For thousands of years, certain humans have used special plants and fungi that cause visions and strange feelings. For what purpose? The matriarch asked. For many reasons, Jack explained. Some use them for healing, others for religious ceremonies, some to see truth more clearly or to face their deepest fears. The matriarch was silent, her compound eyes fixed on Jack. These people, Jack continued, we call them medicine people or shamans or guides. They learn to work with these powerful substances, to use them instead of being controlled by them. This wasn't the complete scientific explanation for human immunity, but it was close enough to truth to be believable. So your resistance is ... spiritual? The matriarch clicked questioningly. In a way, Jack smiled. We believe that facing fear directly gives us power over it. The chemicals that terrify other species remind us of our own sacred traditions. The matriarch was silent for a long time. Her antennae waved slowly, which Jack had learned was a sign of deep thought. Perhaps, she finally said, our species are not so different after all. Our gases are how we speak with our ancestors and see beyond normal reality. Jack felt hope rising in his chest. This was more than he had expected, a genuine connection. There is something else you should know, the matriarch continued. The recent military movements in the Proxima system were not entirely about your ships. Jack tried to hide his surprise. Oh? A faction of our military leaders sees humans as a threat, she explained. Not just because of your immunity, but because of how quickly your kind spreads to new worlds. They fear you will soon challenge our position in the galaxy. We have no such intentions, Jack said honestly. Earth seeks peaceful relations with all species. I believe you, the matriarch said, surprising Jack again. But fear is powerful, even among Xerelians. Those who fear your kind pushed for a show of strength. Jack understood now. The Xerelian fleet had been a response to internal politics, as much as to Earth's actions. And now? He asked. Now that we have seen you affected by our sacred gas, those fears have lessened, she said. It proves humans are not so different from other species after all. Jack's communicator beeped softly. He glanced down at it. A message from Dr. Grant had arrived. Breakthrough. New compound developed. Allows two-way chemical communication. With Xerelians, no fear response needed. Jack looked up at the matriarch. For the first time, he felt real hope for the future. Hi, matriarch. I've just received news that our scientists have developed something important, he said. A compound that might allow humans to communicate with Xerelians using chemicals, similar to how your people communicate with each other. The matriarch's body released a scent that Jack's translator identified as surprise mixed with interest. This would be unprecedented, she clicked. No species has ever been able to share our chemical language. We would like to try, Jack said. With your permission, the matriarch considered this. It would require trust on both sides. Yes, Jack agreed. But isn't that what diplomacy is all about? Finding ways to understand each other, even when it seems impossible? After another long silence, the matriarch made a gesture Jack had never seen before. She touched her head and then extended her limb toward him, a sign of respect usually reserved for other Xerelians. We will try this new method, she decided. And in the meantime, both our fleets should move back from the Proxima system as a show of good faith. I will recommend the same to Earth, Jack promised. As he left the matriarch's chambers, Jack felt lighter than he had in months. The shadows that had haunted him were still there at the edges of his vision, but they seemed less threatening now. Dr. Grant had warned him that some effects of the gases might be permanent, but with the new compound, future exposure would not make his condition worse. His communicator beeped again with a message from Earth. Compound shipping tomorrow. Medical team will meet your shuttle. Congratulations, Jack. Council says you've done the impossible. Jack smiled as he walked through the alien city. Humans and Xerelians were very different species from worlds light years apart. But they had found common ground where no one expected it, in the very gases meant to inspire fear. The next day, as Jack boarded the shuttle that would take him back to the human diplomatic vessel, Senior Commander Zexavak approached him. The matriarch has ordered our fleet to withdraw from Proxima, he said. She seems to believe you're kind. Can be trusted. I hope she's right, Jack replied honestly. As do I, Zexavak clicked. Safe journey, Ambassador Miller. We will meet again soon. As the shuttle lifted off, Jack looked down at the strange planet that had changed him forever. His mission had succeeded, though not in the way anyone had expected. Humanity's unusual neurochemistry, once just an evolutionary quirk, had become a bridge between species across the stars. The human smiled, not out of diplomatic necessity, but with genuine hope for the future. The fear gas still filled the air. Of the shuttle, a small amount the Xerelians couldn't help releasing. Jack breathed it in, welcomed the familiar scent, and looked forward to going home.